record, and we're live. Okay, everyone, welcome again to Making the Leap to Director VP. I'm Becca. I'm a leadership coach who helps the folks that I tenderly refer to as underfulfilled overachievers balance a happy life and a happy career. I come from a background of product leadership myself, and I've worked with almost 100 now people for whom it's really never going to be just a job. Right? There's a lot of soul in my clients' work, which naturally creates a lot of emotional charge. And managing this charge can make or break your level of impact over the course of your career. So that's really what we're focusing on today. And specifically, we're going to talk about one of the most common outcomes my clients care about, which is leveling up their career from individual contributor to a director or VP position. And specifically, what makes it so hard? So in the next 40 minutes, next 30 minutes roughly, we'll learn how to navigate this transition with ease and ideally actually a little bit of joy and fun for something that's kind of classically thought of as super stressful. Just for reference, when we're talking about director and VP, we really mean either of two things. One is you've got a seat at the strategy table. You're exerting influence on strategy in your day-to-day, and or you're managing people. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about director VP. So there are tactics that we know work to make this transition, right? You can take on work beyond the scope of your job. You can ask for a junior report of your own, take on high visibility projects, or build a team of your own. I actually want you guys to enter into the chat. Are these tactics that you're familiar with? Have you thought of others that you're actively using right now? There's a lot of really smart people in the room, so I kind of want to just get some of these awesome tactics that are really important onto the table. Take notes, learn from each other just for a moment. Go ahead and enter into the chat. What are you doing? What are you endeavoring to do to get this promotion to people management right now? Or if you've gotten the promotion already, what worked? Adrian says to multiply the impact of the team. Absolutely. People who are 10Xers tend to really stand out. Bonnie says accountability. That's huge. Taking full responsibility is actually pretty challenging and can be emotionally pretty fraught. Malini suggests working across divisions on initiatives. Absolutely. We're going to get really deep into how messy it is to organize humans around a shared goal. That's one of the skills that's really not talked about. We'll get into today. Getting them to collaborate seamlessly. Oh yeah, project any past people management experiences, right? Like if you think about it, one of the things that I like to do when I'm coaching folks on this, thinking about areas in which you have exerted influence. You don't, again, this whole problem of having to have experience to get experience. Most of us actually have way more experience than we think of. Working on products that drive revenue, yes. Drive and advocate to be at the strategic center of your organization and do that really strategically. And Samia suggests filling in gaps that others are not taking care of on the team. In a past webinar, someone actually said, the things no one wants to do, you go and do them. Great tactic. And Parul just got promoted today. Can we have a hell yeah for Parul? That's amazing. And what she did was raise her hand and work on things outside of her scope, and then made management aware of things that she'd done. So again, this is that advocacy, that visibility is key. And we are here to celebrate you. Awesome. Okay, so it's just not that simple though, is it? So we're you guys actually know what it is that you need to do. We've all read the books and the blog posts on this stuff, right? And these tactics, while super important and a key part of the process, are actually not what we're going to be focusing on talking about today. I instead want to talk about what makes these things so complicated, because it's really not that simple in practice. There's a couple of reasons why it feels hard. One is we end up, for whatever reason, getting in our own way. We don't ask for what we need. We actively avoid having clear conversations about our own advancement. We suffer from imposter syndrome and almost talk ourselves out of going for something that probably another part of us knows we deserve or that we're capable of tackling. And one of the most common things I hear is, I get so lost in the weeds, I can't focus on big strategy. We'll really talk more about that today. Or the worst is that you actually get passed over for this promotion. So zooming out for a moment, right? I want you guys to think about a leader that you really admire. Maybe someone who recently got a promotion to director or VP. Maybe someone that you haven't personally met, but you really admire. What are some of their primary traits? Go ahead and add them to the chat. What do you observe them doing that makes them so admirable? And as you're thinking about this, I want you to also add to this picture, how do you think they feel when they're navigating all of this? Are they freaked out and anxious? Are they calm? Project what you believe their emotional state is. Maduri says, empathy towards others is a key trait, absolutely. Abundant confidence, detail-oriented, high influence. They have sponsorship from upper management, so they've like solicited and advocated for themselves. They lead by example, right? They're super high integrity. Ooh, they don't get emotional about decision making. And Maduri, I think I see where you're going with this, is that they don't have a bunch of negative emotions driving their decision. But actually what we'll learn about today is just how it actually is always emotional decision making. It's just which emotions are in the driver's seat that is the most high leverage for us to look at. They're 2 steps ahead of everyone else. They bring people together. And they have a framework of problem solving that is replicable, right? So other people can feel empowered to go and to take action on their own without checking in every 5 seconds. They invest in people, they never freak out. All amazing primary traits here. And they probably feel patient, right? Allowing team to take the spotlight. They feel calm, which enables them to not be super reactive. Any other emotions that you guys think are common in the leader that you would guess they're feeling that makes them behave in such an awesome way, inspired way? Naming emotions is one of the things that I do in my practice. Trust me, we'll get to that later. No emotions? All right. Well, if you guys think of any, I want you guys to like keep these present and stick with them, because all of these traits and all of these emotions, I think are summed up by one main word: equanimity. So feelings never get talked about in this process. We're going to spend most of today talking about emotions and how you can hack them to feel totally in control of your career trajectory, including getting promotions, actually including getting raises and leading with influence. All of this actually applies. And equanimity is, don't worry if you don't know the definition of equanimity, many people don't. It literally directly translates from Latin to mean evenness of spirit, equa and anim. And it's defined as a mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation, kind of like when my password snafu happened when I was trying to host you guys this morning. She accepted both the good and the bad with equanimity. It's a state of psychological stability, composure, undisturbed by experience or of exposure to other emotions like pain, or things that might cause another person to lose the balance of their mind. The thing that might cause the people competing for your promotion to lose the balance of their mind. In Buddhism, okay, to get a little bit more abstract with it, in Buddhism, equanimity is one of the pillars that is thought of as sort of neither a thought nor an emotion exactly, but rather the steady, conscious realization of reality's transience. It's the ground for wisdom, freedom, and the protector of compassion. Sounds pretty great, right? So based on the traits you guys just listed about these leaders you admire, equanimity is the foundation on which good leaders operate. You cannot be calm and confident, patient, without some level of equanimity. So, okay, still pretty abstract. I'm going to give a couple examples to bring this down into practice. Oh, and real quick, if you guys haven't muted your microphones, please do. That was supposed to be a setting, but Zoom's clearly being a little bit frenetic today. Thank you. So equanimity in practice, great. In the workplace, what does this actually look like? Here's an example you've probably experienced. Your strategic proposal that you worked really hard on gets overridden because a higher up is playing politics. Super annoying. But instead of getting frustrated, you pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is this higher up trying to accomplish for themselves? And you have the equanimity to revise your strategy to ensure both of you are visibly successful. Super pro move that we'll get into a little bit later. Another example, a bully at work has it out for you. Instead of making it mean something's wrong with you or succumbing to anxiety every time you walk in the room, you have the equanimity to slow down enough and see their pain, to really be patient and really access a new level of compassion in spite of this adversity. Your idea that you fought so hard to turn into reality actually nails it and becomes a success. You credit your boss and team, not just generically, but specifically, because you have the equanimity to be totally generous and abundant with the credit for the work. That stuff comes around and you have the equanimity to see that. Lastly, this is something that you guys will almost certainly encounter as you become a manager. Your new direct report comes up with a plan you're pretty sure will fail. Instead of tightening your grip on their project, becoming the micromanager that we all claim to hate, you lightly coach them, but ultimately give them space to fail. You have the equanimity, you know that you're investing in your people and their learning. That's the kind of long game that we need to have as great leaders. So all of this may seem like a really tall order. And here's the thing, for anyone who hasn't done a ton of work building their emotional agency, it is a tall order. But here's the thing, that's what we're signing up for. As we get more senior, complexity and ambiguity only increases. The complexity and ambiguity of our work, the complexity of the systems we're working with, the complexity and number of the people we're managing, all of it. And when you think about ambiguity or something that's very ambiguous and complex, how does that make you feel? If you're like most people, it's probably a little bit anxious, right? There's not a lot of certainty. There's not a lot of clarity. That's something that we're responsible for driving in spite of the ambiguity and complexity. It's just messy, right? And the messiest thing of all is people. But here's the thing again. What I like to say is queens play the long game. If you don't identify with queen, whatever royal figure resonates with you. Equanimity implies a real emotional connection to the long game, right? It's the ability to be thoughtfully responsive instead of just knee-jerk reactiveness. All of that is driven by emotions. So what are the things we have to practice to expand our capacity for equanimity? 3 major things we're going to cover today real quick. Emotional regulation, setting your current team up for success, and eliciting an intrinsic motivation in both yourself and others so that work doesn't feel quite so much like work. These are the 3 things that no one talks about that I think are the most important things in this transition to becoming a director VP. Just a spoiler, the last 2 here, numbers 2 and 3, are gonna seem like an afterthought by comparison because emotional regulation is so deeply the key. It is the highest leverage thing we can do. That we can focus on to get the kind of results we're looking for. And just a note, we go really deep into all of this stuff in my group program called Fearless Femmes. We all take action from emotion, not thoughts. So therefore the emotional health is just the highest leverage area of focus for executing a successful career. So if you're interested in learning more about Fearless Femmes, you can ping me or check out my website after this. So another kind of key example, right? Emotional regulation. We're defining emotional regulation as the ability to stay calm, cool, and collected, to acknowledge an emotion without acting on it, and to notice emotions in others without judgment. You guys might almost see how this could be almost interchangeable with equanimity, right? The 2 are inextricably linked. And here's another real world example, right? Just to kind of like bring it home for what emotional regulation looks and feels like. It's when you're giving feedback. So this is another key skill you'll have to master as a manager. And in feedback best practices, right? You've processed all your emotions about whatever happened, and you've let go of your emotions completely. And only when you're fully emotionally regulated can you be genuinely invested in being of service to the person you're talking to. If you haven't quite gotten there, it won't matter what words you say. They'll probably know you're bullshitting. You've probably been on the receiving end of this before, right? You can tell the person kind of just wants to be right a little bit more than they care about you learning. It's not one or the other completely, but there's a tinge of it there that causes a little bit of discomfort and maybe even resentment. And so how can this be true, right? how can someone know that you're on just this intrinsic level, that you're not being completely authentic or genuine? The answer is a phenomenon that's pretty well understood called physiological co-regulation. Those of you who are parents are probably familiar with this because it's how we teach kids to manage their feelings. Because no one's born with this, right? This is something we have to learn as social animals. Our body language, our heart rate, temperature, hormones, they're all communicating 24/7 with the bodies around us. So that's why you can kind of have a feeling when someone's bullshitting, and it goes two ways, right? The cool thing about this is that it means that when you're regulated, when you're emotionally regulated, you can make others feel emotionally regulated. So while your negative feelings are kind of contagious, so are your positive feelings, and this becomes a superpower, right? This means it might sound a little bit like mind control, like low key. That's kind of what it is. We're going to talk a lot about this today. What does all of this have to do with getting a promotion, right? Okay, so people take action from emotion, not from thoughts. We love to think that we're thinking beings, but we're just not. We're feeling beings. Your emotions, therefore, influence whether you actually do what's required to get a promotion, or if you stay stuck in a cycle of fear, avoidance, etc. It also influences what the human making the decision to promote you decides what to do, promotion or not promotion. It depends on whether or not you successfully inspire their confidence, whether they feel good and safe and happy around you or not. Our bodies allow us to exert influence on the bodies around us, again, and the result is kind of like mind control because our emotions are so tied to our thoughts. So, all right, back to this. You know what you need to do to get a promotion. What makes doing it hard specifically? And the answer to that is emotional dysregulation, obviously the opposite of emotional regulation and therefore the opposite of equanimity. I want you guys to take a look at these symptoms of dysregulation. This is emotional dysregulation, anxiety, irritability, anger. These are all examples of what's called hyperarousal. It's sort of an elevated, stimulated, a higher energy form of dysregulation. The others, in the column on the right, is hypoarousal, more of a depressed, drawn dysregulation. You faint or freeze. It's that type of survival response, whereas hyperarousal is the fight or flight. So I want you guys to take a look at these. Any of these, you're like, yes, absolutely, this is my symptom. I want you to, if you're comfortable sharing, I'm a big sharer, share in the chat. What symptoms do you tend towards? Most of us are dominant in either hyper or hypoarousal. We all have both systems. But for me, I definitely am on the hyperarousal side. It's funny, I get a little bit self-centered. I kind of make everything about me and my shortcomings. Maybe that sounds familiar. I definitely get sort of racing thoughts. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a spiral. Tanya says anger is her go-to. Bonnie says irritability, defensiveness, neediness. Absolutely. So you've got a little bit of both of these sides coming to you in your life. Defensive, that's a big one. I get more defensive with my husband. At work, it's a little bit different, but it's funny how different situations elicit different survival responses. Elena says she's hyper aroused at work. Definitely me too. And so when you think about what you need to do to get a promotion, or as you go about the activities to get a promotion, you might notice yourself more prone to experiencing some of these symptoms. This is a real biological phenomenon that our bodies subject us to when we're doing something unfamiliar. Because when our ancestors did something unfamiliar, there was a higher risk that a tiger could leap out and kill them. This system has worked for us for a really long time and for a really good reason. And it is a biological phenomenon. All right, so it's biology, great. Are we stuck? Are we screwed? What do we do? This is the thing. Absolutely not. This is one of the most harmful myths that we buy into. The idea that when we experience an emotion or a dysregulation, we're at its mercy until the emotion decides to move on. That is the moment we give away our control over whatever it is we're trying to do. Get a promotion, get a raise, build a relationship with somebody. This is the moment where our agency evaporates when we make that choice. The fact, this is real science, is that we have the ability to control our emotions from moment to moment. If we understand our emotions as just signals from our bodies that get interpreted by our brain, We can see why equanimity is so hard. That bully makes us feel shame. The higher up makes us feel overlooked. Our reports of mistakes make us feel unsafe. And this, again, is ancient programming. When we feel unsafe, our ancestors, survived by responding and honoring that emotion. But it's just a little bit out of date for today, right? But here's the thing, if our bodies don't feel safe, you can forget the long game, right? Our nervous system will always prioritize being alive over being the queen, unless our higher brains intervene. So this knowledge is really powerful, right? We can literally see, I'm not kidding, this is like really well understood science. If you guys are interested in more of this, The Body Keeps the Score is a really great starting point for learning more about what's called polyvagal theory. We literally can use CT scans to see the activity of our body signaling certain emotions to our brain. So here's what I want you, this knowledge alone is extremely powerful, right? But here's what I want you to actually start putting into practice. 4 things to regulate both yourself and others. When you are feeling that anger, that defensiveness, that irritability, I want you to do these 4 things. 1, name the feeling. What you're looking at right here is one of my favorite products of all time called the Feelings Wheel. You can literally go to feelingswheel.com and see this anytime. It allows you to kind of solve the free recall problem of naming the emotion that you're currently struggling with. Identify your symptoms of dysregulation. Develop a ritual that physiologically calms you down from that anger, that elevated state, or elevates you from the more depressed, withdrawn, hypoaroused state. And I want you to then watch others calm down around you as a result. It literally is like a superpower. So specifically the rituals that I'll suggest to you guys, again, all this is super science-based, based on the psychobiology of our emotions and how our nervous system works. I've got 2 prescriptions for you, depending on whether you are more prone to hyperarousal versus hypo. I'll do hyperarousal first. This is my absolute favorite as a hyper person. VU breathing literally massages the nerve that is in charge of our fight or flight reflex. VU breathing, it's kind of like an Om. I'll demonstrate it to you for a moment. It literally goes like a foghorn sound on your exhale. And what it does is it vibrates this nerve, soothing it, calming it down, giving it another sense of stimulation so that it can kind of unhook from the cycle it's in about believing it's in danger. Sloth breathing does something similar. This is very simple. You exhale for longer than you inhale. Blobbing is another favorite. This is where you just lie on a better couch and let it all go. Blah. Just to be a total blob on the couch. And you can do that by progressively relaxing each muscle group, starting from your feet. If you have access to a sauna or hot tub, that is really effective too. Restorative yoga is also really, really effective for soothing hyperarousal symptoms. For hypoarousal, a couple awesome things for you. Wim Hof breathing, amazingly effective. Google it, look it up online. It's a really well researched technique that gives you this absolutely crazy burst of energy. It's actually quite remarkable. When paired with a cold shock, like a cold shower in the morning, you will wake the hell up, trust me. If anyone's science-minded here and just wants to try it, I highly recommend it. Kundalini yoga, great for elevating hypoarousal. And anytime you feel like you're in a good balanced state, balanced breathing, just with 6 count in, 6 count out, is really good for maintaining balance and, by extension, equanimity. So these are all the soothing techniques. Check these out. If you guys want to go deeper into these strategies and how to use them, we go incredibly deep into all of this and the ways that it affects all of our goal setting, all of our self-sabotage in the group program that I run called Fearless Femme. So I really do hope that you guys will check it out on my website or message me for more info. All right, so from this place where we have access to being calm, compassionate, connected to the big picture, and you can feel this way whenever you want by implementing these techniques. Literally, they work within minutes. What do we have the ability to do? Set your team up for success. You can prioritize extremely effectively and extremely calmly with total clarity. When we're in a state of equanimity, we don't feel jerked around by people dropping ideas on us. We're not devastated when someone gives us difficult. And we're able to execute with clarity and laser focus on our goals, which is the most important thing for setting a team up for success. And we don't let people drop competing priorities on us, right? And if they do, we're thoughtfully responsive to that incoming information, whether it's from our boss, our users, our stakeholders, anything. We're able to hold the line for our team so that they're sure exactly what the most important thing they can be working on is at all times. Another strategy, by the way, to getting a promotion that I never hear anyone talking about is making your boss look good. And I mean really good, right? Be thoughtful about it. If you have the equanimity and long game mindset to push credit uphill to your boss, great things will come trickling back down to you, and usually much sooner than you think. If you're ostensibly working towards a metric that your boss is responsible for, right, as a director or VP, and you really deliver on something that resonates for them and their own sense of success, the promotion will be right around the corner. I see this all the time. And here's the thing, when you create an emotionally and psychologically safe space for your team, magical things happen. There's suddenly space for failure, which of course as growth mindset people, we know is just learning, resilience, and growth. So people take more calculated risks. It leads to better innovation, more creative breakthroughs. And there's a ton of hard science supporting this. We know exactly how you can literally induce creativity in your team by managing your own emotions. You can make them feel relaxed and curious rather than stressed out and anxious. And that's how you're going to get the results you're looking for to support this promotion you're going for. And the third bit here, intrinsically motivate yourself and your team. People are naturally better and faster doing things they're good at and like. Shocking, I know. If you pick projects selectively that align with your values, the things that get you revved up, work will be easier and you'll be able to get more done faster, and the quality will be improved too. You can also do this for your team members. Lay the tracks out in front of them. Understand what they want to learn, what gets them up in the morning, and maybe you can have an explicit conversation where you elicit this from your team. But sometimes you have to be able to intuit things from people, especially if someone you're managing is more junior. Right? You have to sense what makes them anxious versus what makes them happy, and set them up for success by aligning their intrinsic motivations, their values, their strengths, what they want to learn. And praise is a big part of this too. Know what to praise people for based on nonverbal cues. Again, when you are in this place where you're able to perceive what's really going on, you have equanimity, suddenly trusting your gut instincts becomes a lot easier. This is the other thing that I harp on with my clients, is that we have to relearn how to trust that source of wisdom rather than second guessing and doubting ourselves. Huge problem that we're gaslit into doing all the time. So those are your skills. Those are your big skills: to intrinsically motivate yourself and your team, set your team up for success, and emotional regulation. And what I want you to really take away from this is this track. Confidence is actually just a byproduct of equanimity, one of many positive byproducts of equanimity. When you see someone confident, what you're actually seeing is someone who's relaxed in the face of adversity, someone connected to the big picture so they don't get shook by the day-to-day, right? They don't lose control because they know on a deep level they have all the resources they need, or can ask for them if they need, right? It requires a real bodily sense of personal safety to inhabit that emotional space that I just described. And if our body isn't convinced that it's safe, you're going to have a much harder time convincing others you're a good leader because of this phenomenon of co-regulation. If you feel equanimity, you will feel confident. If you feel confident, you will inspire feelings of trust in others. And if you do this better than anyone else, you will get the promotion. This is the track to focus on to move through this process with joy and ease, and ultimately get the result you're looking for. That's it for me talking at you. So hopefully we still have 22 minutes for a little bit of live coaching. I'm here for you guys. But I do implore you to, if this is interesting to you, if you're like, oh my God, this is a whole world that of an edge that I want to leverage and hone as part of my toolkit, go to beccacamp.com, learn more about it, and we can set up, anyone who's on this call is eligible to have a free 30-minute session with me to learn more, talk about your goals, and I'm always here to support you. So I'm going to end the recording now. Thanks everyone for attending, and we're going to switch over to our private coaching, our group coaching. Thanks everyone. And recording.